Are you ready to take control of your financial future as a gig worker? With the freedom and flexibility that comes with gig work, it's easy to overlook the financial responsibilities associated with it. But don't worry. Today I'm here to share some essential budgeting tips that will empower you to thrive in this unique landscape. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rose and I'm on a quest for financial freedom. While I'm focusing on eliminating my personal debts, I'm also diving deep into research on how to set up myself for a successful transition into entrepreneurship. My main aim is to create a stable foundation, a stable financial foundation for myself and my family, paving the way for financial peace. So join me on this journey as I share what I am learning with you because I do believe in sharing the knowledge and lifting as we climb. So, with that said, let's dive into these budgeting tips for gig workers. So, as a gig worker, you are both your own boss and your chief financial officer. And while the greatest benefit of gig work are freedom, flexibility, and control, it also presents some challenges, particular particularly in the area of budgeting, if you're not used to budgeting. So, we all know that budgeting can be tricky if your income isn't consistent from week to week or month to month. And this can sometimes frustrate individuals. When you're dealing with variable income, you need a slightly different approach to budgeting in comparison to persons who are budgeting who are on a fixed salary. All right. And this is the fundamental reason why a solid budgeting strategy is crucial for gig workers. So, here are my 5 tips that will help you to budget effectively. Tip number 1, track your income and expenses. The first step to effective budgeting is to meticulously track your income and your expenses. So, you're going to be starting with your income. You can use a budgeting app where you can pay your monthly subscription, or if you are familiar with Google Sheets or Excel, you can go ahead and use your spreadsheet. You can also use a simple book. You can get a budgeting book and you can use those as well. All right, so what you'll be doing is to log your earnings, log your spending. All right, if you have been a gig worker for several months, your base income over the period can be used, and you would want to use your lowest monthly earning to budget with. And if you're just starting out, you can use your lowest monthly projected income to create your budget. So over time, this will give you a clear picture of your financial situation and help you to identify patterns, knowing exactly how much you are bringing in to the business and why you need to use the lowest amount. You need to use the lowest amount because you want to be realistic. You want to set a realistic budget. So when you budget on the lower end for your income, when you do receive more, then you have that room where you can make adjustments. It's best for you to budget on the lower end, receive more, and then you can adjust than to budget on the higher end and receive less. That is going to create confusion for you. Okay. Step number 2 is to determine your expenses. And when you're determining your expenses, you need to take in consideration that you are your own boss, which means your personal expenses should be considered as well. Mind you, you have to keep your business separate from your personal, but you'll be paying yourself a salary. So when you are putting your salary package together, then you need to take in consideration your personal expenses because salary falls under the expense of your business. All right. So now that you know your income, it's time to list your expenses. So start with your essentials, your food, your shelter, transportation, your taxes, which are non-negotiable, your debt repayment. So start with all of those, whether you got a business loan or you have some personal loans. You need to take in consideration all that your expenses entail. Next, you need to add your non-essentials like your entertainment or your subscriptions. And don't forget to include savings and a retirement plan, because remember, you are your own boss. So you have to take care of all of this as well. So if you're doing gig work as a side hustle while maintaining your full-time job, you may still be benefiting from your employer assisted benefits. So that's a plus on your side, only if you are doing your gig work as a side job while maintaining your full-time job. All right. So be sure to account for your expenses associated with your gig work. And the cost may vary depending on the type of gig work. So if you're freelancing from home, you need to take in consideration your office space, because you're using a portion of your home for your office. You have to take in consideration your computer, your equipment, your internet, your electricity. All of that needs to be taken into consideration. If you are doing rideshare work, then you need to take in consideration your fuel, your car, maintenance, etc. And if you're renting out a room as a side gig, then you need to take in consideration the additional utility cost. Okay? All right. So once you keep these factors in mind, you will be accurately assessing your earnings and planning accordingly. Number 2 is to create a flexible budget. So given the variability of gig income, it's important to create a flexible budget. So instead of a rigid monthly budget, consider a range for your income and expenses. Factor in the lowest and the highest amount. You can take an average. I prefer to go with the lowest amount, just so that if you make more, then you have all that cushion to rely on. And then you can go from there and adjust your spending accordingly. So this approach will allow you to accommodate any fluctuations without derailing your financial goal. And this is also planning for the worst case scenario too. So if you base your budget on the lowest predicted income, you know you'll be able to stick to it. Any additional earnings can go into savings, can go into building your emergency fund, and as well as to help you to build a cushion for dry spells. All right, so tip number 3 is to build your emergency fund, as I hinted before. So having an emergency fund is crucial for any worker, especially when it comes to gig workers, because you need to have a cushion against accidents, illness, losing contracts, or dry spells. So aim to save at least 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. Start small. Do not try to save all of this in one go if you cannot afford to. You just start small if necessary, but prioritize growing this fund over time. And whatever money is earmarked for your emergency fund, make a promise to yourself that you are sticking to only whatever you consider to be your emergency for this fund. You won't be using it for anything outside of. So if it is that you need to make a note as to what occurrences will be considered emergency, then do that, so you know anything that falls outside of that list, you will not be taking funds from this specific emergency account. Okay, so let's move on to tip number 4, which is to set aside money for taxes. Remember now that taxes are non-negotiable. Taxes are non-negotiable, and you don't want to be charged penalties. So being a gig worker, independent contractor, or a small business owner, while it offers tremendous freedom, there's also the headache that comes with taxes when it's time for you to file them. So you have to be careful throughout your operating year or your operating period. So it's crucial to know your filing dates, and it's crucial for you to be setting aside money each month for your tax liability. And according to NerdWallet, a good rule of thumb is to save about 20 to 30% of your income for tax purposes. And some of the best practices budgeting for taxes is that, 1, you're going to set up a separate bank account. And I would recommend a high yield saving account for your tax savings, because while you're putting money aside, you'll also be gaining a little interest on it. All right. And that interest is more than you would be getting in a regular savings account. So opt for a high yield saving account. All right. And once you are setting this money aside, you know you won't be accidentally spending it for just about anything because it is earmarked for taxes and taxes only. Best practice number 2 is to understand your tax responsibilities. So you're responsible for filing your taxes each April. That's your income taxes. But you also know that there's self-employment taxes. And once you are operating and you have earned more than $400 for the year, then you know you need to file your self-employment tax. And with your self-employment tax, there comes your Medicare tax as well. So you have 12.4% for your Social Security taxes, up to 168,600 of your net earnings, as well as a 2.9% Medicare tax on your entire earning. So if your earning exceed 200,000 single or 250,000 married filing jointly, then you must pay an additional 0.9% in Medicare taxes. And then you also need to take in consideration your state taxes, your sales taxes, and whatever county taxes there are. So there are quite a few different taxes that you need to take in consideration as a gig worker or a self-employed person. But on the bright side, though, there are several valuable tax deductions for self-employed or gig workers. So you can take a look at these on the Social Security Administration website or on the IRS website. And I'll also put a link in the description that will take you directly to these pages. And one of the best things that you can do, best practice again, is to always be in dialogue with your tax professional or your financial advisor, so they can guide you on exactly how you need to be preparing for your tax payments, your quarterly payments, etc., and how much you need to set aside each month to meet these obligations. Okay, so we are moving on to tip number 5, which is to review and adjust your budget regularly. So you need to have that relationship with your budget. You need to be very close friends with your budget because you are the CFO of your finances. So developing the habit of reviewing and adjusting your budget regularly is going to be a plus for you. You need to have that relationship and know exactly what is going on. So you need to set aside time each month or each week to assess your financial situation. And if you're just starting out full time, I would say make it a priority to review weekly. And that way you can see what is working, what's not working, what you need to adjust to move forward. So adjust your budget as needed based on any changes in your income and or expenses. And this is a proactive approach which will help you to stay on track and adapt to any financial changes that is coming. All right, and here I do have a bonus tip, which is to plan for hidden costs. And remember now, planning for hidden costs, this is essential for maintaining financial stability because you don't want to be surprised by any unexpected. So what you need to do to prevent this is to create what is called a contingency plan, or you can create a miscellaneous section in your budget that will cover anything outside of what you already have set down as your expenses. All right, so start by identifying some of the potential hidden costs and how much they might cost you. Things like tools, equipment, travel, material, business insurance, all that. And these are some things that a lot of people, when they're starting out, they tend to overlook. And then when it's time for them to pay, no, they just realize, oh, I didn't make any provision for this. So you need to have that contingency, that miscellaneous. All right. It is also important to establish clear contractual agreements with your clients. Always be in the know. Don't assume. It's better for you to see clarity than to assume what somebody is saying, what somebody is asking you to be done. All right? So when you establish those clear contractual agreement with your client, they will outline who is responsible for various expenses, and this way you will avoid any misunderstandings. So you also need to network with other gig workers, who can help you stay informed within your specific industry. And another thing, like I mentioned before, is to stay in contact with your tax professional, because tax laws changes annually for the most part. So you need to be able to understand how these changes are affecting you moving forward so you can make the necessary preparations. All right, so by addressing these hidden costs, you can navigate any financial uncertainties, any unexpected expenses that will come up during the course of your business. All right, and you'll be able to execute your gig work with greater confidence and security. So now that you have these budgeting strategies at your fingertip, it's time to put them into action. So start tracking your income and your expenses today if you haven't already been doing so, because this is crucial. You need to know how much is coming in and you need to know how much is going out. Create your emergency fund and do not forget to set aside money for taxes. You do not want to be paying penalties and fees because you're trying to keep as much of your money as possible. All right, so if you found this information helpful, share it with your fellow gig workers and help them to navigate their financial journey as well. Remember that we are all lifting as we climb. And remember, consulting a financial advisor can provide personalized guidance tailored to your unique situation. Take care of your finances. Take charge of your finances and build that financial future that you so rightly deserve. Until the next video, happy budgeting.